I'm so excited to have you here because I think it's so inspiring to speak to somebody when they are really in those kind of running like mad stages and the early stages of building a business. What's it been like the first 4 months? Because it's not 4 months, is it? Because you went live in
We launched in
December.
December 2024. So we're about 14 weeks old. And it's been terrifying. It's been late nights, very daunting emails. And then you make a sale and you're like, your shoulders drop and you're like, wow. And now I can see the data. And I think that's probably for me been momentous because as a writer or as someone who is promoting other people's brands, you never actually get to see the results. You might get reported results, but you never actually get to see what's selling. I can see the returns process now. I'm like, oh God, what a headache that is. That's another to whole. Yeah. But it's also people who return to the fairground to shop. I can see it all. And that's not why I did it. But it has meant that it's also slightly terrified me what I've started. It's the fourth child. It is the baby that never sleeps. You can't put it down. So I'm having to learn boundaries. And that's not very good. I'm not very good at boundaries. I'm a people pleaser and I fully admit that. And my husband's trying to toughen me up a bit. He's like, you can't people please the whole time. Now, especially.
No, because you could just work every single hour of the day and you've got, how many, 2 children is it?
I've got 3 children.
3 children, okay. 3 children.
They're 10, 8 and 5. And they are the ones that sit in the bath and I'm on the floor with my laptop and they say, oh, Mummy, why did you start the fairground? Oh, she's got to do her work. They're really vocal about it. But I say to them, maybe one day you'll run the fairground. And then they're like, what? We can run your shop? And I'm like Amanda in Motherland. I'm like, it's a store, not a shop. It's a store, not a shop.
I'm really fascinated by the brands that do business better line because I love the line. I think it's great. But of course, people are very cynical about these statements, aren't they? And I know that purpose is really important to you when it comes to brands and shopping. And you've talked about it a lot. So it's very much part of your journey pre-Fairground. Tell me about that.
So no brand is perfect. That was the first. No one is perfect. Even the people who say, oh, I've given up shopping. I was like, do you know what? I think that's really unrealistic. And I've been on panels with people who say we really shouldn't shop at all. And yeah, okay, that's the harsh truth, but it's never going to happen. VCH style became, I thought about what am I actually doing here? And it was more about style with purpose. Like I wasn't someone who, if I took a client shopping, I wasn't going to be like, let's get you 50 new items. I never worked on commission with the stores that I took them to, because if you're on commission, that means you're incentivized to sell loads to your client. So I was always clear on that. And then when it came to the fairground, I knew that there are other marketplaces, which is what the fairground fundamentally is. It uses drop shipping. So I don't hold the stock. You are actually receiving it direct from the brands when you shop. But I just felt that there wasn't one place that was doing it in a way that was maybe a bit more accessible, less activisty, less ethical. I don't want to preach. I think as soon as you start preaching, people roll their eyes and they turn on their heel and they go straight back to Zara.
Yeah.
So it had to be a place where people felt they were possibly going to learn a little bit, but actually it's a shop. It is. It's a store, whatever. Mm-hmm. But no brand is perfect. Not even Stella McCartney. Anyone who claims to do so is completely, not telling the whole story. But there are brands who are doing brilliant things and they're too scared to talk about it. And the reason I assess them, or we use a third party in the form of Be Able, which is a consultancy group, is because you have to have that point of difference in the market because there's so much greenwashing and the consumer is so confused. So I just wanted it to have a USP that meant that we are basically trying to sell trust.
Yeah.
And that's really, I've put myself in a really difficult position. But if I can carry on reminding people that no one is perfect, I'm not perfect. I've just bought a takeaway coffee. I should have used my Keep cup. But what we can all use our spending power in better ways. And that's really what I'm trying to kind of bring together as a community, because otherwise we simply fall prey to the big names out there who have millions of pounds worth of marketing budget to spend. And it's the case of those who shout the loudest. And again, I'm not going to name names, but it's so boring if we only ever shop from those same names on the high street that take over every retail park. They take over every high street. And my local high street is Newbury. And at the moment, it's dominated by the big names that you can all reel off and charity shops and maybe a few tiny independents who are literally clinging on for dear life. And I just felt like it's just boring. So let's bring...
And also difficult for some of these really interesting, more artisanal, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Brands to have a platform. Like, how do they make noise? If they're not great at marketing, they don't understand how to do it, or that they don't have the time to do it, where would they sell? You end up selling in those sort of those gift shops around village high streets and things, and it must be quite challenging.
Some of them do it really well. Obviously, D2C,
Yeah.
online, they rely on social media, but to create enough content, that costs money as well. So really the FairGround, the way it works is, I'll be really clear, it's a subscription model. So every brand has been assessed, which we pay for, it costs them nothing. And then they can choose one of 3 tiers that they then access, bronze, silver or gold, and they pay a monthly subscription to be on the FairGround. And that is because no brand, and I really have to make a point on this, no brand can exist alone on the lottery of commission. So particularly if I'm saying, slow down, we don't need to shop as much.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh God, I need loads of commission. It wouldn't work. But we take a cut of each sale and we pass on any shipping costs that the customer pays for. That goes back to the brand. But basically, I had really underestimated the convenience of one destination. So that, I think, is something I will really focus on now for the FairGround.
That's so interesting. So how did you know that would be a model that you could... I mean, was it something that you'd seen before, or was it something that you came up with? How did you realise that?
I wish I'd...
Because it feels kind of genius.
I came up with it, but I realised, actually, this is what loads of marketplaces do. So I'm sure there are... I could list names, like Wolf and Badger does a similar thing, but they don't grant, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody listening, but I don't think they grant a certain amount of marketing off the back of that subscription fee. You're just paying to be in the mix of a huge website. And then there are other marketplaces out there that have actually, and I won't name names again, but they've had a shocker in terms of handling these small vendors because they started to charge a subscription later on after launch. So in a way, I did the maths and I knew it had to wash its face without commission. And so that's why we charged. It's the only way. But also I think you have to put a value on the time it takes to create a video or the time it takes to tell the story and educate and actually research the product. I can't just pick any item and put it on. And there's a lot more that goes into it. And that's been a real learning curve for the brands that have never spent on marketing before. So that's an educational piece for them.
So how did you go about finding your brands?
I put out a pitch video, which we shot me walking through the fields, and I just did a piece to camera because I knew I had to stand out. And then we also personalized every video. So it wasn't just, hi, Navy Grey. It was, hi, Rachel, who's the Navy Grey founder. We've got something to tell you about and we want you to be a part of it. So it had to kind of land. And from that, everyone said, oh, we haven't seen anything like this. So yes, we'll give it a go.
So you really used the power of your platform to do that?
Yeah, I had to. I had to remind them basically that I'm a journalist, I'm a personal stylist. I've made a lot of money for them through my work, which doesn't get paid in the cost per word that you get in your journalism. So it was a reminder of, I promise I can bring to the FairGround that which I've already proven in my other work. And I'd done a Christmas campaign called VCH Christmas, and that was making a lot of money for these brands. And I wasn't making nearly as much. So I was like, there's got to be a way of making money in your sleep.
Yeah, but also a way of sharing the benefits. Because I think that's true of many people who are doing what you were doing, which is that you're shoving the attention, the awareness in one direction that's passing you by.
Exactly.
I've got to find a way to run a business. I'm fascinated. And did you always have in your mind that you wanted to do something like this?
Okay, can I be really honest?
I'd love you to.
I am 42 and I have 3 young children and I really need financial security. I think people assume that I am something I'm not. And so for me, I knew I had to come up with a way of doing what I do, standing for what I stand, but commercializing it because I genuinely believed that people should be using their spending power in a different way. Okay. Going back to what we said earlier. But the other reason was because as I get older, the pressure to remain a certain weight, fit a certain sample size, look a certain way. I haven't had work done and I really don't have the time or money to do that. But it means that you have to remain relevant. This is a whole other topic, Joe. Sorry.
We're talking about influencing now, aren't we, in a way?
Yeah, but
I know people don't like
you're judged.
content creators, put it that way.
Oh, God, yeah. I guess. I didn't want to do that in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I might be working till I'm 70. So I had to come up with a business idea that would really extend some kind of legacy, actually make my kids proud and possibly make a little bit of money, but also drive the consumer in the right direction. And you know what? When certain people are in power in about 4 years' time on the other side of the Atlantic, maybe the agenda will shift. And every business will have to sit up again and really take stock of how they're doing business. But for the moment, there's just pocketfuls of very powerful groups globally that are really making real positive change. And those are the types of brands I want to be heroing now.
Yeah, no, it's purpose driven. I love hearing that. I mean, the reason why the midlife entrepreneur for me is an important title, and I don't love the word midlife. I never really have.
Yeah.
But there is something about the collection of all our lives so far and the experiences we've had sort of drives, and your values slightly change and alter as you get older. And there is something about wanting to do something that has a purpose. Now, I'm not saying that it's a purpose in the sense that we all have to be doing something to help everybody or,
no, I know.
or charity.
Yeah,
but there has to be something where I'm doing this thing. If I'm going to work really hard, it has to mean something to me or something to the people that I serve or something to the community.
Yeah.
And that's been consistent across every single entrepreneur that I've interviewed, because we're talking small businesses here, aren't we?
Yeah. Really small.
And hopefully not small forever, but starting small and doing our best and taking a risk and trying. But every single one of them has had a real kind of purpose behind it.
Why is that? Is it because
I think our values change? I think it's just more satisfying. I hate to say it. I mean, when you think about your past journalism, and I did a very similar sort of role.
We both did the same role.
You did the same role, loved it. It was amazing. But like you say, you get to a certain point and you've done it.
Yeah.
I think there becomes a point where perhaps you want to put some of the stuff that you're writing about or talking about into practice. And the other point you've made, which I think is really important for everybody listening to recognise, is that at 42, you do have the same amount of time working left that you've already had.
Yeah.
So you might as well do something good with it if you can.
And also, it's not my name above the shop door, right? The FairGround could belong to anybody, but it will always stand for the same thing. It's fair from the ground up, but it's also a fun, buoyant, inclusive, ageless place to go and find something. And that, for me, was the moment actually that I was like, oh, good God, I've got the name. I've got to do this. And I'd read a book about I'm backtracking, but I'd read a book about doing business more fairly by a lady called Isha Sharbrand's brilliant series of essays where she interviews the founders of the likes of Patagonia. And I had COVID, which meant I could actually read the book because no one could come near me. So my children would stand at the door at Wave and I was like, I'm just finishing a chapter. And then I realized the name, and it wasn't VCH and it wasn't Ginnie, and it could just run without me, and I could go on holiday and it would still run. And there are ways of suddenly having that eureka moment. And then I trademarked it.
Yeah.
Straight away. And once I got that approved, then I was like, oh shit, I've got to do it now.
Now it's actually real.
It's so much money.
Yeah. It's really important, isn't it?
So important. And I filed it in America as well. I was like, let's just see if we can do this. So I definitely have a get up and go. I haven't stopped working ever since having children, and that's okay if you do or if you don't. But for me, I had to. Financially, I had to keep going. It was when my husband said, when I was still at Vogue, darling, you're bringing home the bags, but you're not bringing home the bacon. And I was like, okay, that's the time. I'm going to have to leave Vogue. So that was a real...
That's the truth of it,
such
right?
a breakup. Yeah. I can't pay a council tax bill with a mascara.
No.
That's going to be the clip you get, isn't it?
Such a shame, isn't it? I completely and utterly empathise with what you're saying. I had exactly that same moment. It was the reason why I left the amazing job, and I loved it so much because it wasn't really like work, was it? Let's be honest.
No.
But yes, there comes a point, and it's often as the children are growing and you realise the costs of that.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to find money for violin lessons and all the stuff that comes. It's just, by the way, it doesn't end. I've got older teenagers, and we go through driving lessons if you want to do that. And my brace is broken again. And
oh my goodness. I honestly, I'm like, no, you can't have it. They must think I'm so mean. And they're like, I said to Maggie, who's 8, I said, Maggie, what would you like to see on the fairground, darling? You know, what we thinking she'd say children's wear. She went, Mummy, polyester. I was like, oh God, she knows how to go for me.
What has been the biggest surprise for you? I'm really conscious of the fact that when you were running VCH and you left, what year did you leave Vogue?
2019.
I've just said that in the introduction, haven't I?
Yeah,
Because
but
it's
don't worry,
immediately gone
I
out
always
of my brain.
forget. It was just before COVID, and then
Right,
I had
so
a baby in COVID. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But you have essentially run your own business because you've been doing all of this work. We've seen it on camera. You've been journalist and styling and all that stuff. So you've been running a portfolio business.
Yeah, portfolio career.
What's the difference between what you're doing now and I'm assuming you're still doing some of that as well?
Yes, being really honest, nothing. I just have a store, not a shop, to run. And I'm just trying to weave the research that I do of new brands generally. I'm trying to always think, could they sit on the fairground? And then if I found a great brand, which I've just come from meeting this incredible brand at a PR agency. So it's like back to the old ways of working. And I'm like, can I write about it? Could I work with them directly as Ginnie? Because that does pay handsomely. And I'm obviously not going to be apologetic about that. Yeah. Or could they in time be on the fairground if they like the drop shipping model, which is what we use. So I'm actually still doing what I did. I still take people shopping if they want to go shopping, but they have to, you know, play by my rules. I'm not going to find them 25,000 new items. But it just means I've got another string to my bow. But in time, the fairground will take over my life entirely. And that, in a way, that's when I know it's working. Because I've got a deadline, for instance, to write for the Telegraph. I've just pitched 3 ideas to Grazia. Because you just have to keep your profile up. And I know that there will be others who are kind of, what do they say? Not taking up the rear. That is not the right thing. Bringing up the rear. God. Please don't put that in.
That's definitely going in. It's definitely going in. We're going to be taking
bringing
up
the rear. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, and it's this age-old, I was talking about it with girlfriends, the relevance thing.
Yeah.
You have to remain relevant. And I know I shouldn't feel that pressure.
I think also
it's there.
But also the fact that you are able to have access to all these PR companies and they'll be introducing you to new brands also helps your new business.
For sure.
There's a twofold there, which is really important. Who do you have helping you with the fairground? And I'm not going to ask for names and addresses, but in terms of structure, how have you done that? I'm feeling quite overwhelmed listening to the amount that you're now running.
Yeah.
With the 3 children, by the way, who are still probably the biggest priority in your life.
And
your poor husband.
Yeah.
So how are you getting support?
So we are a team of 3. And then we have one amazing web developer who's like my guru, who if I ever get investment, I will just shower him with money to stay permanently. But
you've heard it here, by the way, if you're listening.
Yes, exactly.
You can hold that down in your next meeting.
Do you know what I love is that everybody who works with me is quite happy to be a part of it because of what it stands for. And there is no one who's, are you joking? You're going to pay me that? Because they know that I'm not taking much home at the moment. And it's all hours for me, not all hours for them. But we're getting in our stride. So actually, they're all freelance on anything from 1 day a week. I say all, it's 3 of us. 1 day a week to 2 days a week. Mm-hmm. They all have other freelance roles. So I don't feel so much pressure. And I keep saying, I promise there will be more hours coming. It's coming. Yeah. It is coming. But we are 14 weeks old. So to any brand who's, doesn't sound like it's working, give us a chance. Because I will tell you now, Jo, we turned over £90,000 in the first weekend.
90?
90.
Oh, that's amazing.
But it didn't stay like that because that was an amazing launch weekend with a discount. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm just learning the figures and learning the ropes. And I'm learning the peaks and troughs of retail. And that is a very real thing. and the weather makes a difference, and the politics of our day makes a difference, and payday makes a difference, and VAT on school fees, if you are fortunate enough to be in that world, makes a difference. But if you just think, oh, I'll take a look at the FairGround, that's all I'm aiming for right now, for it to be a kind of household name.
Get some eyeballs on there and something that people depend on for as a destination. So web developer, sorry, who are the other two people?
There is my business director, who is ex-Vodafone, super clever, the opposite side of my brain, keeps me on track, tells me not to worry if someone sent me a pissy email, because I'm such a people pleaser that it does hurt, and that's what I've got to get better at. And then a marketing assistant who is more creative. But I write our newsletters, obviously I do. And I'm fearful of bombarding the audience. So my dad was like, oh, I got your gift with purchase email. Not sure that was right. And I was like, oh, man. But didn't you want the tanning drops, Dad?
Maybe it wasn't the gift with purchase, it was the type of gift with purchase. It had been a free bottle of whiskey or something.
He'd be fine.
Like,
I'm not sure votary tanning drops are for me, darling. I was like, thanks for the feedback. He's also my biggest cheerleader. And for him to say, I really didn't understand what you were setting out to do, but I tell all my friends at the golf club and they're all shopping. I'm like, I'll take it because they're all coming to us. And you know what? That's the audience every brand is after right now.
What keeps you up at night?
Really, honestly, God, I hope I don't cry. I know that I'm at a stage of life where my parents are getting older and I'm the only daughter. I've got 2 older brothers. So inevitably, I know there's something coming my way in terms of looking after them in greater depth. And my brothers are pretty bad at checking in. So I just know that I'm in that stage of life where seemingly everything's okay. I'm exhausted, but I weirdly thrive on that. My children are going to need me more. My marriage is going to need a lot more work. And my parents will probably need me a lot more. And I think it's that build-up of anxiety that really does keep me awake. Oh, and then throw in the menopause, which honestly, I don't know if I am or not, but it's all I ever hear about because that's what my algorithm is showing me. So it's just the overwhelm of life as a 42-year-old running a business and really trying to make ends meet. I'm not doing it as a hobby. I'm not doing it as a charity partner to these brands. I really believe in what they have to say. I really want them to make money over someone else doing less good stuff. And that is a pressure that would keep anyone awake at night.
Yeah, that's a lot. And the mental load is huge. And I think you brought up a really important point, I think, for women, which is, I'm going to say, I don't know if men think about this because that would be really unfair, but certainly the women I speak to, it is that massive bombardment of everything at once. And it does have an effect.
It really
and it
does.
is hard.
Or my friend has cancer at the moment. It's really, everybody knows someone with it, but it means you're like, Jesus, I've got it good by comparison. Yeah. So you know that you got to run with this moment. But the anxiety does really overwhelm me. And I probably get a bit snappy as a result. But the feedback I get is so wonderful. I rarely get trolled. I think I got trolled the other day because I supported Zelensky. I was like, no, I am on the right side of history. Don't doubt me on that. Like, I was just, my videographer is Ukrainian. Like, she's amazing. The people I've met on this journey so far and all the contacts I've kept, I'm sure you're the same, Joe, that people want to work with people who are kind. And I would really hope that I am hopefully that person.
Yeah.
But I'm also trying desperately to be a bit more of a ball breaker, and that doesn't come easily.
No, it's a real challenge. And it's interesting because many empathetic people who are purpose driven do suffer from pleasing and perfectionism because you're in service. That makes you happy. Of course, then providing yourself with the boundaries, the limitations that you can actually manage life and keep all the balls in the air. That's a struggle because you don't want to say no to anybody.
And I have 28 brands so far.
Wow.
And they all want a piece of you. And so actually, to be serious, in time, we would look to have obviously models and we would build out. Wise London have done it brilliantly where they bring their community in and they talk about the clothes.
They become the ambassadors.
Like, it's really clever. I really admire Marielle for that. And Trini, I really admire. Like when Ginnie met Trini is what I want to do. Okay. I'm like, ditch the sequins, Trinny, and then let's.
Oh, yes. That's definitely holding back that conversation. When Ginny meets Trini, I'm loving that.
She's fabulous and she's so real. And I think that's what people want to see. Let's just say it how it is. So on Saturday morning, I will be doing an Instagram live in my nightie, looking bedraggled. That's how I can factor it into my week.
And do you plan those sort of things? So I noticed you've been doing some exercise and bits and pieces. Is that intentional, or is that something that's come your way and you thought, why not? How does that kind of play out?
I don't make money from it, just to put it out there. I really want to be transparent. I do it because I love the NLG, which is Natalie, my sort of French ballet bar teacher, who's become a really good friend. I'm about to go on her retreat. She keeps me sane. She's also in France, and it's just amazing how you can make friendships. So I do that to support her because I really think she needs a leg up. Not enough people do her brilliantly priced classes. And then Instagram Lives I really find easier to do than anything. You don't have to faff around with reels, and
It's time saving for you.
Yeah, it really does. I don't post everything, but I have sat down and planned it with Cara, who is another freelancer working with me. Another mum juggling, often have her baby on the call. They're my little crew, and in time I always say to them, it will be worth it in the end. And they were like, it's worth it already. I was like, no, I promise. We're on something. There's something here, I promise.
You're actually making me feel quite emotional because I went to this incredible dinner last night, which was hosted by another guest on the show in the last series. And she has a huge community called People Flow, and it supports HR people. Abigail, her name is. And we were talking about this. Women have to hold other women up. We have to find a way to, whether it's with your gorgeous yoga, ballet,
brilliant.
Oh,
yeah.
Natalie. You've given her some exposure by doing these things, whether it's about saying thank you to somebody publicly or whatever it is. We just got to keep doing it all the time.
There's not enough of it. I think
there
this whole
isn't.
like women lift women up. I don't think it's always true. I've
not.
actually had someone really upset me recently, and I've done so much for them and their brand, and I just have to park it.
Why do you think people don't? Because that was a question that was posed to me at a workshop that I did this week. And somebody said, because I was going on and on, banging my drum, I got such a big bee in my bonnet about it. We've got to clear the pathway for other women. We've got to hold women up. We've got to be the ambassadors and the advocates. And we've got to not be fearful of other women being in our space. And all of that you talked about, somebody coming up behind you earlier. Yeah. We have got to also earn money. We've got to do our jobs. Why do you think it is that so many women do keep other women at bay?
First of all, Jo, you are unique because you are. I could have been, I was slightly terrified of you. We did the same job at competing brands. I was Vogue, you were Harper's.
Yeah, but you were at Vogue.
Yeah, but you were at Vogue. But you were, I don't know, you haven't changed. And I think that's testament to what type of person you are. And there are a lot of Joes, but I haven't met that many Joes. But I'm telling you, every brand I work with now, I've forged that alliance with them. And yeah, it's awkward. This actually is quite a key point. It is so awkward doing business with people who've become friends. And that's when my husband was like, yeah, and that's where you get a business director and you just stick to like research and you stick to finding those new brands because it's not always going to come good. In fact, we've had a brand today say, oh, not making any sales, we might have to come off. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But because I can't be all things to all people, but it still hurts. But my point about women pulling up the ladder behind them, I was bruised massively when I was at Vogue by someone who did that. And we've moved on and we've apologised. It then happened again when I started VCH Style. A former colleague went for me. I had done nothing wrong. Even the lawyer I got involved, she was like, there is nothing here. This is school ground politics. But it was a real case of forgive but never forget, to be honest, because it really hurt me. So I just know I'm attracted to certain types and I get such energy from women who genuinely would introduce you to someone, make an email introduction, give you 5 minutes to say it's a great idea or a bad idea. And so I just try to flock to those women. Yeah. And I hope I'm one of those as well. If ever I get that email from a student saying, I'd love work experience, I'm not sure I can offer, but I always say, follow the brands that are making money because that's quite a good starting point. Don't just follow the ones that do the pretty clothes. Yeah. Journalism is such a hard game to play. You've got to start looking at writing copy for brands. Don't just think about it from a journalistic point of view. Like, just explore the avenues within that field. So I always try to give advice, but I just think women, maybe it goes back to the relevance argument. We're all just trying to remain relevant in a very competitive world, which I don't care what anyone says. It is sadly still about looks. It is sadly still about how you, I don't know, relay your ideas. And I think social media has exacerbated that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I saw some really terrifying stats actually this morning. It came onto my LinkedIn feed about we are losing more and more women from the boardroom as well. Again. So the environment's not working for some reason. No. And I think it's great for me because I'm now meeting amazing people who are saying, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to start my own thing, do my own thing, try. And that creates creativity and hopefully all these incredible communities. And hopefully that supports other people coming up and being inspired and all of that. But yeah,
do you think it's about making enough as well? I think there's a part of it that's, and this is because of who I'm married to. He does not earn millions. He will never earn millions. He's not in the city. We live within our means. He is an amazing force of good. He would always say, I'm more ambitious than him, which I find hard. But I also think he's happy with his lot. I'm learning that enough is actually enough. It goes back to Melanie Rickey and her Enoughness podcast. It's actually just, I'm happy with what I've got. I'm not trying to make billions here.
We have a tradition on the show. I created a tradition on the show. We, this enormous organisation.
Yes, it's like we at the FairGround. Actually, it's just me.
Yeah. But we want to play the game. This conversation will be so useful for so many people because you're being honest and you've talked about the challenges and you've talked about where you got the inspiration from and why and the purpose. But I do like to leave a little bit more because like you said, we want to pass on our experience, our knowledge, what we've learned, we know. So I have this thing called the 3, 2, 1s, which I like to put into the show notes as well so that people can sort of look at it. There are some trends really appearing, which is fascinating. Okay. So it's 3 things you've invested in, 2 things you wish you'd done differently. I know we're only 14 weeks in. And 1 person that you'd like to thank. So if we start with 3 things you've invested in that have been worth every penny. It doesn't have to be just about your business, by the way.
Oh.
Okay. This is about you as Ginny, the whole person. So let's start with 3 things you've invested in that have been worth every penny.
Since having a major wobble after my second baby, Maggie, I have been religious about exercise. And look, I'm probably verging on like loving it too much, but it does give me that endorphin hit. And I am religious about it. And it's not in a weird weight way. For me, it's mental health. So I will forever stick to it. And I will pay money to go on an exercise retreat and sort out the childcare and husband accordingly.
What do you do for your exercise, just out of interest?
I'm now really into weights and those disc things on the floor. We just do it with a tea towel, to be honest. But like, it's all about body weight and just 20 minutes. Wish I did more yoga. Switch off easily.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah,
I do try. I really try.
I hate running.
But I love running.
I hate it.
But that's where I get my headspace. I can't run with people. I have to run alone. I listen to my music really loud and I pound away in a really slightly old lady run because my kids always laugh at me and go, Mummy, you're literally walking. I'm like, no,
I'll go for
to me, I'm running.
We live outside London, so maybe it's just more about walks. Have I done cold water swimming? No, I can't. I've got something which means I'll probably collapse. Anyway, so yes, my health and fitness is really key and I'm not apologetic about that. My friendship that has now become a business partnership has been absolutely key, like to the point where I think, oh gosh, I'm not sure I could do it without her. So she's another Jo and she is brilliant. And we have this hilarious kind of motherland friendship, but also she is so clever that no one on the school run will have ever seen that side of her in action because we're just crazy at the school gate. But she is so clever and she's someone who gave up work and has now come back to it and I hope is feeling fulfilled by what she has,
and what's her background?
She was marketing at Vodafone. She's a big sick, right? Like,
yeah, big.
But you have 3 children and she lost her confidence and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me saying that. She knows so much and she's brilliant with the on track with figures and not worrying about what someone thinks. And then thirdly, what should I invest in? Probably web developer. who is also a mentor, and he doesn't realize that. And he, without realizing it, I used to have a business coach. We parted company completely amicably. And in fact, I was emailing her just the other day because she's still a friend. And this guy who's helping me with the FairGround has become, without realizing it, sort of, he's taken that place of just keeping me.
How did you find him? Because a lot of people ask about web designers and developers, and where did you find him?
Through a friend who's a graphic designer, and they work together, and he is ex-Burberry, ex-Amelia Wickstead. He is so talented. He has this brilliant analogy of the FairGround is like your house, okay? And you've just redecorated it, and someone comes in with muddy shoes into your house. How does that make you feel? And you're like, okay, I get it now. Like, your house, your rules. And he's like, yeah, the FairGround is yours, and you have to run it like with that mindset. No, like bending over backwards because someone sent you an idiotic email. Like, you have to play this a little bit differently to the journalistic Ginnie, which has been quite interesting.
Do you shoot all the product, or do you rely on the
No, we use we draw up all their imagery. Yeah. And then we shoot our own videos to make it a bit easier to understand the length of something. But, you know, I'm the model. So in time, we will have more models, like I said, to make it a bit more.
But also you're somebody who can communicate well with camera, so that probably works. So you can tell a story.
Again, I keep thinking of Trini. She just says it how it is. If you want to know if you can eat a curry in a pair of trousers, great. Is the waistband that generous? Tell me that. Are you going to get sweat patches in this top because we all overheat at some point? I need to know that. Like, how high does that sleeve sit? And then, am I going to wear this necklace morning, noon, and night, or is it just a one-hit wonder? I just trying to talk a bit more candidly about these beautiful items. What we want to hear.
I mean, the sweat patch one definitely is a definite. Because I say that because as I was getting dressed to go to this dinner last night, I knew it was going to be really hot, and I had a particular shirt. I thought that would look lovely. And I thought, oh no, that's so not going to work.
Cannot lift a glass of water because they will see the sweat patch.
Okay, 2 things you wish you could have done differently. And I know 14 weeks in, but is there anything that you can think on?
I think I'm still learning, Jo. I did start a business plan. It probably hasn't been finished. I probably would have lent on my brother for a bit more advice, actually. We don't have the closest relationship, but he is such a good teacher. So he is probably going to help me with the next stage of the figures.
Because I'm right in thinking you don't have investment right now.
No, it's all been my own savings. Mine, not my husband's or our family's, mine. And people have said, would you like some? And I don't really know I know what to do with it now, but I don't. Very nervous of under delivering. It's that people pleaser in me. But actually, you can get some brilliant tax efficient ways of investing in a business like this. So that's what we're looking at now.
Yeah, it makes sense. And it is, I suppose, I get why you're nervous. But then to scale, I assume that, you know, there's no choice.
Yeah. The other thing, Jo, I'm not scared to fail. I think there are loads of businesses that might be like, if we're really honest, just not doing as well as they could be for the length of time they've been running. And I don't want this to just bumble along. I think it actually has to work because you've got so many brands depending on you. And I, you know, probably crack on and try something else if it doesn't work. But for the moment, it just feels absolutely, I was meant to do it. Yeah. And I'm still surprised I did do it because, you know, it kind of came in that eureka moment. And then you just did a bit more every day, and then it actually went live. So yeah, it's breathing. That's the pinch me moment as well.
Yeah, massively pinch me.
Yeah,
and I get why you don't want to have that interruption of having investors at this stage asking questions. You just want to find your way. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I think I don't want to be sat down every Monday doing a sales report because this doesn't really grow only on sales. The growth is almost like what we're trying to avoid in the traditional sense, because you can imagine all those sales teams. How many units did we sell? And it's just actually, we've got to rein in how much people shop. So I've shot myself in the foot a bit, but actually there are billions of people in this world who could do with shopping from the FairGround. So that's more what I'm going for, reach rather than frequency.
And so I guess a lot of it hinges on always having something new to explore and discover and that kind of thing.
Yeah, although we haven't. The brands that have done the best, can I be really honest, the brands that have done the best on the FairGround in the first 14 weeks have been the brands that have not dropped something new every month.
That are just reliable, loved products.
Yeah, and I think it's actually people are like, oh, I like that when I first saw it. It's still there. oh, it's still there, but not in a kind of, oh, it didn't sell way. It's just a confidence that's come with some of the slower paced brands.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I agree with that, actually. There's something about, can you imagine if you went into Marks and Spencer's and there weren't any Percy Pigs anymore? I met somebody last night who's doing a marathon. She said, oh, I don't use those jelly things or those gels. I use Percy Pigs because they make me happy.
Yeah.
You would be so upset, wouldn't you?
But to flip that on its head, I went into M&S the other day and I'm like, I know that next week I'm going to look at a whole different load of product because they just turn it over and they move it around and they've got so much floor space to work with that you're always seeing newness, always, always, always. And I think actually put your blinkers on and really find those gems that probably lurking somewhere you didn't.
But you know what I've realised about, and I don't have anywhere near the following that you have on Instagram, but what I've realised is that very few people actually see what you do. So you can do the same thing and repackage it and it will be new to them.
Yes, I've only just realised that today. Yeah. Only today.
Yeah.
I just texted Joe. I was like, oh my God, I've just realised that what we think everyone knows, no one knows. It was about returns and why we have to pay for returns.
Yeah. No.
And it's been the biggest traction I've had in a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hadn't really thought of that. So that is always a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah. You can message a lot. And back to your emails again, don't be afraid of emailing, I think.
Really?
Well, only with my marketing hat on.
Okay. It has to land.
How many people open an email and why are they going to open it? They're going to open it if something interests them. So you could send 14 in a week and they'll be like, oh, that's a lot of emails. And then one of them interests them and they'll open it.
Yeah.
But they won't be interested in everything.
Yes, I might have to send a few more. But we have a 62% open rate. I'm not going to...
That's amazing.
I want everyone to know that more than anything.
That's a very good open rate. Well done. And then a click-through rate is?
Oh, God, I don't know that.
See, but I can see
I should know that. Okay, sorry.
That's something to take away.
There we go. I'll go and learn that right now. Thanks, Shopify.
One person you'd like to thank, ideally not a family member, because I'm just going to say that you're going to thank your gorgeous husband that you've mentioned many times, and your lovely children who are going to be
really hate the fairground.
No, they hate the fairground,
and
they're going to be future fairground directors on the board. You're going to be Succession in 10 years' time.
Yes, exactly. I would really love to thank. Actually, can I have two people?
Yeah, of course you can.
My postman.
Your postman?
Because he is, oh yeah, what are you on today? It's like, what are we shooting today? And he is the man that delivers the samples that we then shoot. And he's amazing. And he thinks I'm shopping. And I was like, every time I open the door, I'm like, I promise it's not shopping. I promise it's just, we're doing a shoot. What do you mean? What kind of shoot? Tell me more. So I'd like to thank him.
He so thinks you're shopping, by the way.
Yeah, I know. And then the other, Katie Lopez, who is one of the co-founders at Stripe and Stare, she introduced me to a lovely lawyer who helped me get my trademark. And that was the beginning of the fairground. So it took quite a frank conversation with Katie, who was like, it's not easy, but like you can do it and we'll be part of it. And I just buried
Stripe and Stare, for people who don't know.
They are an underwear brand that they use Tencel, which is a biodegradable fabric. They've raised a lot of investment. They are absolutely on fire. And I buried my pants to prove that the worms would eat the Tencel. And they did. And she was like, and that was unpaid, obviously, just an idea, random idea. And she was like, we've never actually had such traction. So thanks for putting our pants in the ground. My husband making rude comments. But yeah, she was very honest. She was a woman who lifted up another woman and introduced me to a lawyer. And, you know, she's quite like tough in a good way, and she will tell you how it is. So
love that.
So thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Casey. And thank you, Ginny.
Joe,
thank you for an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. I'm so excited to watch the journey of the fairground.
Well, let's hope it lasts.
You just said you're unafraid to fail. And that's a beautiful message because, you know, I mean, I was trying to show you the post earlier, but I put a post up that was from the BBC and it was, did you see it?
Yeah.
Emma Green.
Yeah.
Who was saying that you've got to be comfortable with failure because that is the journey.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be that every part fails. It's just areas will fail. Things that you thought were going to really resonate with customers won't resonate with customers. And 100%. You're going to find your tribe because you're building a customer base and that takes loads of time.
Yeah. I have done my Dragon's Den application, so watch this space.
Oh, I would love to see you on Dragon's Den.
Can you imagine?
I would love to see you on Dragon's Den.
You'd invest Trini, and I'd be like, but you just endorsed Zara, so I'm not sure I could take your money.
But I think you've got Deborah.
I'd love
Excuse
Deborah.
me?
I'd love Deborah.
She's like the queen of...
I'm stalking her on Instagram. She liked my comment the other day. So, Deborah, if you're listening.
That's amazeballs. I just said amazeballs. It's embarrassing.
On that note.
Anyway, on that note, Ginny, thank you for being on the Midlife Entrepreneur.
Thanks so much for having me, Jo.